Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
I love coming up to the Annapolis Design District to actually two of my favorite stores. I like Local by Design and Third Eye Comics and Third Eye Games, which are two of the best stores in the town to get gifts for pretty much anybody on your list that you're having, especially if you're having a tough time doing it, because there's always something in one of those two stores for everybody. But today we are up in a conference room in a table that is just absolutely loaded with stickers. But we are with Emma Longfellow, who is the Chief Marketing Officer, Karolyn Garcia, who is the Chief Operating Officer, and Steve Anderson, who is the janitor, I think it is, of Third Eye Comics. Is that what?
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I like that.
But Steve is the owner and the founder of Third Eye Comics, and we've got all these chief officers here. I feel like I should have worn a tie or something like that. I'm not sure. For those that are unaware, who've been living under a rock for 15 years, thirdeyecomics.com is probably the best launching pad for you to go check out everything that they have. Thank you guys for having me back. I think the last time we talked, we discussed coming out of COVID and how you survived that whole thing and everything else. And now you're growing again and again. I'm glad to be able to talk to Emma and Karolyn. And so, how long have you guys been here?
So I will have been working here almost 5 years now. I think coming up this August, will be my 5th year. And
that's fantastic. Now, Emma, you are the Chief Marketing Officer.
Yes, I am.
So, okay, we kind of know what Chief Marketing, but I want to find out what Chief Marketing Officer for a comic and game book store does. But, how did you get here?
Yeah, so I actually started out working in the Annapolis comic shop, doing retail. I did that for about 2.5 years. And I went to school for graphic design, and I needed an internship in the middle of COVID when nobody was open or doing anything. And Steve was super awesome. He was like, why don't you just do your internship here? And then through that, I was able to show him my skills and what I'm able to do. And he was like, you're super talented. We don't want to lose you to a graphic design job. So, work for us.
That's awesome. So basically your talent set was not being utilized on the sales floor as best as it could, I guess, on the third floor of the
Emma's good
offices.
everywhere.
Well, yeah. Not to brag, but I do enjoy working on the sales floor. It was awesome, like meeting all the customers, connecting with them, just helping them find like new things to love and fall into. And
this is one of the funnest stores to go into. And, you find, you walk into, I think that Pretty Woman, she walks into that fancy store and she looks all hookerish and everything else. But there's
one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah. But there are some stores that you walk into in Annapolis and you just feel out of place. And that's one of the things I really love about this. Okay, I'm a fat old white guy with gray hair, and you walk into I'm probably not your typical customer. But you know what? I am, when I walk in, I'm as embraced as the goth kid with the piercings and the tattoos and the spiky hair and everything else like that, which I think is absolutely amazing. But I think, to your point, Emma, their staff is just incredible, because I come in because I'm like, I don't know, this is what my girlfriend's daughter is into. And next thing you know, we go on this whole voyage around the store to find out what I need to get for whether it be birthday, graduation, Christmas, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And that really speaks well to, what you do as far as being able to bring the products in, but also to Karolyn to be able to, find the right people, I guess. And I guess you oversee, or you're into that HR as well.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Basically, my job is to make sure that Steve has more time to do his Steve things. So I take care of like the day-to-day stuff, any fires that need to be put out for whatever reason, any sort of like logistics issue, especially right now with music and video. We're making sure that we got everything rolling in place, because it's going to be a huge move, not just for the big store, but for the other stores as well.
What is Steve's stuff?
10 hours ordering books and fortune telling.
Yeah, exactly.
Or do we want to know?
Yeah. No, it really is just that letting him have the time to kind of churn out these ideas that are going to be taking place maybe 5-10 years from now, but getting the foundation laid so that we can make them possible.
When did you realize, Steve, that I don't want to say you're over your head, but at this point, I look at the growth of Third Eye Comics. So he opened the first store, I believe it was on West Street, right?
No, Old Solomon's.
Was it on Old Solomon's?
Yeah,
okay.
15 Old Solomon's.
Back in 2008. Okay, that was on the that little right
tiny
near,
one.
just off of West, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And I mean, at what point did you realize that you needed superstar talent to execute this stuff to allow you to sit there and think the big picture down the road?
You know, it's funny. The first 2 years that we were open, it was just Trish and I. We hired one employee, Torma, after about 7 or 8 months.
And that was probably scary as hell.
And it was scary as hell. And then it was us and him for a long time. And then maybe had 1 or 2 more after that. But it was real hard for us to step back. And I'd say probably when we moved to West Street, we had a staff of 3 or 4. And it was very much obvious to us that we needed to staff up. We were exhausted. You know what I mean? And then I realized pretty early on that, like, it's good people that keep us going. And like, I can't get by without it. Like, I mean, like, there's too much to do and too many things to do. So yeah, I mean, probably 2010, 2011 is when I realized that we needed good people. And then I've been lucky enough to have everybody that's here, they come up through the ranks, and, you know, like, I find great people like them, and, you know, and then they exceed expectations. And then I'm like, oh, wow. Like, I never knew I needed a chief marketing officer or a chief operating officer until I had people that showed me I needed it. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, wow, my life is better now.
It's a great feeling that, you know, and I used to own several retail travel agencies. And I want to say, okay, if you went on a 4-week vacation, are you stressing about your business?
I don't know when that'll happen, but if I was to take one, I would not be, because between them and a bunch of the other people here, they're doing a phenomenal job. Katie, who just walked by, like, I would be fine.
That's again, that's the mark of a great team, because I know when I had my agencies, there were times, and they even joked, they said, dude, we make more money when you leave. You just get out more.
Yeah.
But, you know, I come back and I realize that my operations manager had made 98% of the exact same decisions that I would have made if I had been there.
Yeah.
And that 2% was really inconsequential, could have gone either way, depending on which way the wind was blowing. So.
Yeah. Whenever Steve and I meet, a lot of times we'll be discussing like a situation and we'll come to a conclusion. We're like, that's the exact same thing I was thinking. And we're like, okay, cool, let's move forward.
Well, what is the difference? I mean, right here in Annapolis, you've got two storefront facing things on Chinkapin Round Road. And the address is what, 209?
209 Chinkapin Round Road. That's the storefronts.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have Third Eye Games and Third Eye Comics. I always find that they tend to blend a little bit. And obviously they complement each other, if not for anything other than the cool graphics on the front of the building, which you can't miss. But what is the true difference between the two brands?
Yeah. So Third Eye Games is where I started off originally in 2021 part-time. And so that store is focused on like tabletop games, board games, role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, other RPGs that I've never heard of, but I'm very familiar with now, Warhammer, war games. So it's all about like the play aspect, which is really cool. And we have vinyl records in there now. We use that space that used to be some of the gaming tables to fill it up with records. Right. That will be moving into music and video, obviously. And we have things like DVDs as well. Whereas the comic store, we have like the fandom stuff. So it's like all your comics, your graphic novels, the merch for those things, the manga, the anime, the statues for the animes, the statues for like really cool characters like Wolverine, or, you know, it's a lot of merch fandom stuff. That's what I think of anyways, but Emma probably has a take too.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit it there. The other great thing about games is it's also hobby stuff as well. So if you're into like building model kits or like little hand puzzles, there's a little something for everyone in there. You don't have to be super nerdy to come to our stores or be like, majorly into something. We've got a little something for everyone, which is what's awesome about them.
Now, do you guys consider yourself nerds?
Oh, for sure.
Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
You're going around always,
We're all
always,
nerds.
Yeah.
Always.
I'll show my age. That was not a good term before.
It wasn't when I was a kid either.
Oh, dude, man, you're such a nerd.
No, yeah. We claimed the term and made it our own.
We're taking it back.
That's amazing. What is the hot merchandise? Okay. I mean, you've got to have one of the most difficult jobs here because the inventory is mind boggling.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Is when you think of the different characters that are in, different fandoms and everything else. I mean, to be able to have that, to be able to answer the call to all of your customers, whether they're walking into the store or whether they're going online or however, how do you manage that? I mean, how does that, keep up on that? That's got to be
Yeah. I mean, we sell all sorts of different things here. And that was one of the things I was most intimidated by when I first started working here was I was like, oh my gosh, there's just so much product. How could I possibly learn all of it and know or be knowledgeable about all of it? But it kind of just comes with time. You're in the store every day. You see these things. You start picking up books and reading the backs and you're like, oh, that sounds awesome. I want to get into this. I want to get into that. It keeps you excited. You get to see the stuff every day and you're like, okay, well, there's so much more out there for me to figure out and explore. And also talking to customers too, you learn a lot of important stuff from them as well, because they tell you the things that they're interested in and you can spin off of it.
Sure. And I'm sure customers are probably, into their specific items a lot deeper than you may be.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've got yours and
everyone has their niche here. Yeah.
How quickly does I don't use the word term fad, but how quickly does this turn over? I mean, quite honestly, without knowing anything, Spider-Man could be yesterday's news in February and you could be sticking with a warehouse full of Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, things definitely do change constantly here. Like when all those MCU movies were coming out in the 2010s, that was really popular. We sold a lot of Marvel Comics stuff. And now we're seeing a big swing into manga. As kids and a lot of young people are getting more into that. So we just kind of follow the trends, look at the sales and see what people are excited about and ramp up those sections when we can.
Yeah, I think the pandemic really, really helped the explosion of manga and anime.
And just collecting in general.
Well, it really did because you were stuck at home.
Yeah.
And you had to find something to do for entertainment.
Yes.
Thankfully Steve was here figuring out how to deliver, drive by and we'll throw it in your window.
Yeah.
Whatever needs to be done. Your reputation actually precedes you because I was in Philly, it was actually just before Halloween. And in a comic book store, and they were like, "Oh, where are you? Just chit chatting. Where are you from?" Annapolis, and they were like, "Oh my God, that's where Third Eye is." And I said, "Oh, you're so lucky," and the whole 9 yards, which is really kind of neat. And I said, "Yeah." And then just the past weekend, recently, I was up at Army Navy up in Boston, and there was a comic book called Newbury Comics. I think it was in Cambridge by Harvard, and They were like, again, chit-chatting. And it says, "Oh, yeah, there's a great store down there." That's, they didn't mention it by name, but obviously we know which one it was. And so your reputation at least goes very far in the Northeast. I know that a couple of years ago, Travel and Leisure has always said that your Ichiban are the number one.
Definitely. And I think a big part of what helps that too is our online presence. We've recently ramped up our online store, shop.thirdeyecomics.com. And especially since COVID, we've been doing a lot more shipping all across the country. People put in orders and it's cool having customers, all the way out in California or
even some in Europe. We have a lot of visitors, especially during the holidays, and it's really great to point them, they enjoy the in-store experience, and it's great to point them to our online store and let them know that they are going to receive the same experience, whether they come into the store or they buy something online. It's going to be the same Third Eye experience.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about the growth, and Steve is the guy that thought about the growth 5 or 10 years ago and then sort of kicked it down the road to you two. To manage this. But it was a small shop off of West Street into a larger shop on West Street to a darn near city block where we are right now. You've got, last time I counted, there was like 6 different locations and, different towns, if you will, that you were. But this has all happened in 15 years, but a lot of it has been in the last, 5 or so. Now we've got COOs and we've got CMOs and everything else that are going on here. And you've mentioned music and video a couple different times, Emma. What's going on? Because you guys have been pretty secretive. Last time we talked, you talked about an expansion of Third Eye Comics, and I think you were working on getting the city evicted from the public.
No. No, we love the city. We love the city. The city. We helped them. They got a better spot now.
But you were looking to expand, and but you've now mentioned music and video. So is that something that you can spill the beans on?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So that's our new store that is opening up in January on the 27th. Yeah, 27th of January. It's going to live right in between the 2 big stores, comics and games.
That's where the City Wizard of Public Works, right?
Yes. That's
so you
where
did throw the city out.
No.
They left and we were able to take up the rent there. But we've completely gutted the place. It used to just kind of be one big like warehouse. And we, gutted the place and we put down our iconic black and white checkered floors, and we've got our fixtures in there, and we're getting ready to walls, of course. And we're getting ready to fill it up with tons of records and movies and VHSs and books and T-shirts. It's going to kind of be an amalgamation of the 2 stores, but still be its own, Well,
it's kind of neat then if it sort of morphs from games into records and you just sort of blends back and forth to each other. And I guess, what you mentioned as far as the inventory that you're talking about, this is, and you two will probably look at me like deer in the headlights, but it seems to be like a Peaches records and tapes, or a combination with a Blockbuster, which are probably 2 foreign concepts to you guys because you're young. And
Do you remember Blockbusters?
I went to a few.
And, what was the other one they had at the Harbor Center?
Tower.
What was that?
Tower Records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Tower's a big inspiration. Emma actually was in Japan over the summer.
Yeah. A few months ago, I went over to Japan and I got to see the last remaining Tower Records there in Shibuya. And it was an awesome experience. It's a huge tower. It's like 10 floors of just records and music. Yeah. And it was a big inspiration for designing this store and getting it like all set up.
So was that a business trip out to?
It was.
I mean, you certainly picked up some business tips, I'm sure.
Oh,
right?
for sure. Japan's very cool because they're super advanced there with all of their like advertising and just everything there pops. And it was a really fun experience for me to go in and see what works for them and what's different there and kind of what I can bring back here to America and make Third Eye cooler.
Japan has got to be sort of the epicenter of the Third Eye world.
Oh my gosh, yes, because they love nerdy culture over there. I can't tell you how many like anime and manga and pop culture stores that you would just stumble upon. And yeah, I want to bring a bit of that feeling over here, especially into our stores as we're ramping up our like anime and manga sections. And as we open music and video, the 2 stores, comics and games, are kind of getting a whole revamp. Like the floor plans are going to move around. Our sections are going to be bigger. They're going to be better.
You're changing the floor plans?
Yes,
Is that going to tick off some of your old clients like it ticks me off at the Giant when they like put the bread in a different aisle?
No.
I think people get excited because they see that we're excited.
Yeah.
Then we have like giant sections moving into the middle space. So we're going to be able to do a lot more with the games and the comic shops. It's going to be great.
It keeps things fresh and exciting, you know?
So this is going to be called Third Eye
Music and Video.
Music and Video?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a secret weapon in there that is going to be really cool that's not in the title. We're going to have a big book section. That's where the inspiration from Tower comes in, because Tower had Tower books.
Right.
And we'll have an entire wall of books is what we call them, because obviously we sell a lot of books, but they all have pictures. And these are books like what we carry in the comic shop now. These are moving over. And it's books on like, subcultures and social issues and music and film and, like occult books and things like that. Like we call them cool kid books.
Well, the books that you have traditionally carried have all been, I'd really be hard pressed to find them at Barnes and Noble.
Exactly.
Or, I have to probably dig deep in Amazon if I wanted to do it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you've got some interesting things. I mean, I remember the first time I ever heard the word graphic novel. I have a friend of mine that's lost her husband in the World Trade Center, and she wrote a graphic novel on it. And she's like, "Oh, and I wrote a graphic novel," and I'm like, "Okay, what's that? What's that?" I'm thinking, is this cartoon porn or what? And then I realized that it was just a whole different genre. That's I guess I mean, it was fairly boring, but this market doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. Comic books had made a huge resurgence over the years, and I'll go back way before you all were born. But I mean, it was the DC comics, and it was like the Batman and the Superman. They had the 12 issues that would come out, and that was kind of all that I remember. And I could never imagine, and I'll say it again, a pretty much a city block of stuff that can really appeal to it. I mean, I never imagined, the figurines and everything else that goes along with it, but it's you don't see it slowing down at all.
No,
not at all.
Especially with I feel like the social media has also really had like a big impact, like TikTok, for example. There was one that I saw a couple of months ago that was on a graphic novel called House of M. And they were just like kind of going over this page where some crazy stuff happens. And I remember coming to Steve and being like, we need to order this because I just saw it on TikTok. And we sold out of all of our copies of House of M just because it was trending on TikTok, which is great. I think a lot of it is allowing people to connect about things that they probably would have never connected about before.
Well, social media, that's a certain upside of social media. That you sit there and you look and you go, oh, that's really kind of cool.
Yeah.
And the thing I think that I find with Third Eye, from what I've seen in my experience coming here and everything else, is that you're kind of like the Grateful Dead of the comic scene. And that if you've ever been to a Grateful Dead show, you're going to see a 90-year-old man grooving. Okay. And he's going to be holding his hand to his 70-year-old daughter, who's going to be holding the hand of the 50-year-old son, who's going to be holding the hand of the 23-year-old daughter, who's going to be holding the hand to the 4-year-old. And they're all grooving.
Yeah.
And I find that you're got a lot of young audiences here, as well as a lot of older people. I mean, we're all getting older, and, the hobbies and the likes and the interests, and they all carry with it. So, I mean, you don't have a sweet spot for demos, do you? 10 years ago, I would have said it would be the 18 to 22, 23 crowd, but I've got to think it's a lot more broad.
Yeah. I mean, we have all walks of life that come through our stores. And the great thing about comics is they're cyclical and there's something for everyone, like the people who grew up reading the Bronze Age, like DC and Marvel comics, like those are still coming out. There's still Batman, there's still Superman, there's still superheroes, but there's also newer comics, more indie stuff. There's lots of horror comics. There's lots of like cutesy comics, like even comics for kids too. Like we have something for everyone in our store, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think from the outside looking in, because I wasn't super into comics when I first started here. The conception, there's a misconception that there's just like superhero comics. At least that was I'm like, oh, I'm not into comics because I don't read superhero
what it was
stuff
way back when.
Yeah. And then I started working here, and there's so many genres and so many different titles, and it's not just like superhero stuff. It hasn't been just superhero stuff for a minute, which means that we have a very diverse group of demographics that shop here. And like Emma said, coming from all walks of life, all ages. And I mean, I've seen it myself where there are customers here who were kids when they first started shopping with Third Eye, who now have their own kids that they're bringing into Third Eye, raising the next generation of comic goers. So it's really great to see, and it's really cool to see people who might not have much in common connect about oh, this is a really good, Batman book. I love that. That is my favorite thing about working here.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Emma, you had mentioned that you're doing a lot of shipping and a lot of online.
Yeah.
And that's an area where, Karolyn, you all work to expand now. You're really doing fulfillment for other areas. Is that what I'm getting from this? Or is this just pure customers coming in?
Yeah. So on top of our online store where we sell our inventory, we also do something we called Fulfilled by Third Eye, where we work with big name comic creators like James Tynion, Scott Snyder, Rodney Barnes, Jason Aaron. And I actually build out their websites, and we warehouse all their inventory, and we ship out to their fans. So it's separate from the Third Eye branding, but we get to work with really cool comic creators and get their stuff out into people's hands and just keep the excitement going for everyone.
So if I develop a comic, if I've got a series and I found a publisher, I'm assuming they've got publishers that distribute like a regular book, only it's much thinner. And I get that, and I just need to get a bigger audience. I can come to you, and then you create a website for me?
I mean, we have different packages and stuff that we do. We do different things for different creators.
But I mean, you're working for the author per se, the creator.
Yeah. What we typically will do is someone will approach us, and if it looks like a fit, Emma will talk with them, kind of get their needs, figure out like what we're going to be doing for them, because some people don't want anything that's customer facing. They just want us to ship their stuff. So we have some people that we just warehouse and ship for. And then some people, they respect what we do in our own marketing so much that they want that. And that's where we build out their site and we manage like some email promotion for them and things like that. And then the proposal that we give them is based off of whatever the scope of work is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
You've got 6 locations. Is that what we had last time? Or is that sort of, well, I guess you've got all these stores now in Annapolis.
We have a lot. How many do we have?
7 locations if you count Third Eye Buys and Bargains, which opened about a year ago, but we just recently did a grand reopening for it. And that is a little storefront that's actually right beneath us right now. It's around the corner from our main store on Margaret Ave. And it sells it works in a lot of the secondary market. So we sell like back issues, older movies, CDs, like we buy VHSs. We'll buy collections from people and then sift through them and find all the best stuff and put it back out in that storefront for other people to buy and love and put in their collections.
It's like a super nerdy antique roadshow.
Yeah.
So I think with Third Eye
that would have been a perfect name. Super nerdy antique roadshow.
Yeah, there you go.
Third Eye Buys and Bargains?
Yeah.
So now you've got Third Eye Comics, Third Eye Games, Third Eye
Third Eye Music and Video. Third Eye Buys and Bargains right here in Annapolis. Are we done here in Annapolis? That's Annapolis, yeah.
That's Annapolis alone, yeah.
You had one down in Southern Maryland in Lexington Park.
Yes.
That's still there?
Yes.
Waldorf?
Yes.
College Park?
Yes.
Mechanicsville, Virginia?
Yes.
A little place I never knew existed, Short Pump, Virginia?
Yep.
Just on the other side of Mechanicsville.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's it for now.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
Steve's over here doing his Steve stuff.
We're always.
What's going on next?
Yeah.
That's, one thing that I get asked a lot is the game nights, and they were a popular thing pre-COVID, and obviously that thwarted an awful lot of that. And there's a lot of demand in Annapolis for social things that aren't sailing and aren't drinking. Is the game night coming back at all, or is there maybe a Match.com in the works to put people in touch with them?
We loved hosting them, and we really, really did love it. But there definitely are some challenges when you host them in a retail environment, logistically and staffing wise. And when we were pretty much forced to get rid of the game room because we couldn't have games with COVID going on.
Right.
And then we filled that space with retail. And now we are working on something. I don't know when it'll happen. It's one of those crazy ideas, but in a few years, we would like to get back to having something that is separate from the retail environment, but is a venue where we can have experiences and events that hit that thing that you're talking about, where people want to get together and do fun, nerdy stuff. I just, like anything we do at Third Eye, we want to do it right. Music and video is something that I knew I wanted to do before COVID. Like I knew when I moved into that space, I was like, I want all this parking, and like we, so that was 2017. So it's one of those things where we just take our time. So that way, when we do it, it doesn't suck.
True.
Yeah.
Well, you did mention briefly, Steve, parking. And one thing I will say with Third Eye, any of the Third Eyes here, there's plenty of parking.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't need an app to access it.
Oh, no.
You don't need to pay $4 an hour to access it. You can park there and shop for 8 or 10 hours. till your heart's content for free.
And that's definitely something we think about, especially when we're planning new stores. We want our stores to be accessible to everyone, be as easy as possible to get to and enjoy and take part of.
We also want people to get lost in the experience, so we don't want them worried about whether they need to go back to their parking meter or not.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you'll be like the casinos and take out all the clocks, so nobody knows how long they've been here. And they just
that
wander
is
around.
exactly what we're going for. Yeah.
Come back.
Exactly.
Well, you guys are all hyped about the music and video.
Yes,
and
it's coming up soon.
It is. We'll start over here with the big cheese. What's your favorite band album?
Oh,
if music and video is opening up with one album, what album is going in there?
Well,
Meanwhile, Emma and Karolyn are going like,
what's the one album I have to have that I would feel like a bum not having, or what's my favorite album? I don't know. If I had to pick a favorite album, I'd probably say Black Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. I mean, that was one of the first cassettes I ever bought. You know what I mean? Like, I love that album. So that's my favorite, maybe. But I also really, really like Notorious B.I.G.'s Ready to Die. So I can't pick. I mean, I've got too many, but if I had to pick something that like we had to have, that's hard because I want to have something for everybody. So I'm going to pass this over to Emma.
Steve is definitely the music man.
Yeah.
He's the one who picks out all the music that goes in there, and he's got great taste. I also have a lot of favorites. It's hard to pick. Modest Mouse is one of my favorite bands. If I had to pick an album from them, probably Good News for people who love bad news. I also love country music too, so I'm a big Tyler Childers fan. He's one of my absolute favorites. I love all of his albums. I can't even pick one. Maybe Purgatory if I had to choose.
Okay.
I
Karolyn
have like the worst music taste at this table.
You don't.
Literally. So a lot of my like music.
So we're
knowledge,
having like a Rebecca Black section of
that. No, and I'm like your average consumer. So I'm like your Taylor Swift, your Beyonce, that type of pop stuff. But a lot of the music that I have like come to love is stuff that I've learned off of the Third Eye playlist, just from working in the stores. And so now whenever I hear like a song on like a movie or something, I'll be like, oh my God, this song's on the Third Eye playlist. And someone will be like, this is Ozzy Osbourne. Like, he's very famous.
Okay.
But it's been great. Yeah. Like I love Crazy Train. I did not know that song before I worked here, which shocks people, but that is one of my absolute favorites now.
Funny, you talk about music that you don't know, and that's the beauty about a record and video places, that you can discover videos as well as music that you don't know. We've got people, and I don't doubt for a second that the staff you're going to assemble or that you're going to train to be in Third Eye's music and video.
Oh yeah,
we'll be there to be able to recommend and everything else, and to sit there and say, well, what do you like? Well, hey, okay, you like Crazy Train. Well, have you looked at some of his newer stuff, or maybe
yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, I want to give a shout out real fast. Speaking of the staff, one of our best people who's been with us, she started when you did, right? Amy?
A few months after me.
Yeah, almost 5 years. And a lot of people know her from the comic shop as Amy. She's our manager in there now. She's going to be the one running that store, and she's phenomenal, and she's great at like responding to what people like. And that's kind of like what we do at all of our stores, whether it's comics, games, or music. We get excited about what excites the customer because we want to share what makes them happy. So like we have our favorites and like all that, but like we also like seeing what they're getting into, and that kind of gets us pumped. And Amy's really good about that. And one thing, going back to Karolyn's point about like music, all music is good. So like you can bet that we're going to have big displays. We like Tay, we like Bay, like we
sure.
We're going to have big displays of
the Tay Bay word,
like a lot of with the record store and the game store where we carry records now. One thing that we take a lot of pride in is that you can come in and you can find like some obscure Hawkwind albums, or like, like Can, or like any of that super, super cool, like kind of hip stuff. But you better believe you're also going to find, the brand new Taylor Swift,
1989,
right? Yeah,
Taylor's version.
You're going to find the brand new Nicki Minaj. Like we want everybody to have fun and find their favorite thing.
It's funny. We do a lot of work with Ram's Head, and the best shows that I've seen at Ram's Head are ones that I've walked in totally blind to.
Mm-hmm.
I have never heard of this musician. I've never heard of this act. And it really all started with an artist, a guitarist out of Austin named Bob Schneider. And I misread it. I thought it was Rob Schneider. Okay. So there I am. I walk in, I'm sitting down there, and this guy at the guard comes out, and I'm like, oh, he must be the opener. And then, 30 minutes later, he's like still going. I'm like, well, boy, this opener is going too long. And I'm like, he's not very funny at all. And Rob Schneider is like the Zoolander guy. And
yeah,
I'm like, he doesn't even look like him. And I'm like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
And I met him after the show. I said, you're a horrible comedian, but you're a damn good guitar player. And I've been to about 4 or 5 of his shows when he's come back through. And, when you get into an environment like that, to be able to go in with an open mind, and that would apply to certainly Third Eye Comics, Third Eye Games, as well as Third Eye Music and Video, or Third Eye Bargains and Finds. Did I get that right? Bargains and Finds?
Buys and bargains.
Finds and Bargains. You go in with an open mind, and you're going to discover a whole new world that exists underneath that surface, which I think is just one of the most exciting things that you can offer to anybody.
And that's one of the best parts about our store is the discoverability of things. Like, we have huge sections for anything you could ever want. And you come in and you're like, okay, I know I like manga, but I don't know what I want. And we're more than happy to help you find something new that you're going to love.
Yeah. I remember there was a customer that walked in who had played, there's this like really popular video game called Wolf Among Us. And it was actually like connected to this comic called Fables. And I didn't know if you knew that. And I was like, I don't know if you've like read these. And he was like, I didn't know that this was a comic or graphic novel. So I was able to get him hooked on that series, and it was really great. So something that is like completely unrelated somehow managed to tie back in to what we were doing there. It's awesome. Like, period.
And it's always great when they come back and they're like, oh, I read that thing you recommended.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love it.
Similar.
You hit it out of the park.
That is, I always say when customers are leaving the store, I'm like, if you like it, come back and I have more recommendations. If you didn't like it, come back and let me know. And we can find something like that. If you liked an aspect about it, we can go ahead and figure out something better to recommend.
All right. As we wrap it up, Emma and Karolyn, what's it like to work here? I imagine this is a fun place to work.
Oh, very.
For sure.
Started here right after the pandemic, so March 2021, and it was a part-time job for me. I was working at the NIH as a scientific researcher before this.
Wow, there's a jump.
Yeah, quite. Yeah, quite. Steve has that talent. I think if you find anyone here, like, you'll find that whatever they were doing before is like completely unrelated to what they're doing now. But it's like, I came here as just like a part-timer, and I really loved the job, and I just felt happier coming to my little 4-hour part-time shift than I did waking up for my 9 to 5, and went full-time at the end of the year, and I never looked back. I've been having a blast ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's certainly a tribute to you, Steve, for being able to vet out these people and creating an environment that makes somebody sit there and say, I think I'd like to give up that job at NIH as a researcher. Sell comics for
I tell
4 hours a day.
I tell everybody, I'm like, Third Eye's like the circus. Like, I'm lucky enough to find a lot of good people who want to run off and join the circus, and it's a really good circus. We take care of our people. We have retirement plans. We have healthcare. I mean, that's where Katie comes in handy. I mean, she makes sure that we've got good people getting taken care of well.
Well, Karolyn, I mean, you're also the one that's mostly behind the scenes,
yes,
making sure that the oil gets put in the right gears and everything else to make sure that that it runs.
I'm making sure that Steve's big picture and Emma's like big ideas get executed correctly, and that it comes to life in the way that they are looking at it and envisioning it. That's very important to me.
I don't know how many of these podcasts I've done with local businesses. I know it's probably just a little over 200 in the county, and hard pressed to find a group of people that have the passion for the product and what they do than what's around this table, which is pretty impressive. I mean, okay, so I'm selling widgets or doodads or whatever it is. Yeah, okay, it's great. We've grown. We've got lots of people that like widgets and doodads and stuff like that. But you're a lot more than that. You guys are. I get this. You want the customer to come into and say, okay, let me look at you on the surface and let me dig down deep and find out what else you want. it's certainly a testament as to what you've grown, Steve, over the last 16 years now, I guess it is at this point.
This will be 16. Yeah, I never thought it would be here. I never did. No, crazy. Like it's nuts, but it just happens organically. You know what I mean? Like I didn't think I needed an office 5 years ago. Yeah, I was doing everything from my kitchen, you know,
Right.
and like, it was weird. I was almost ashamed for a while. I was like, I don't have an office. Like
I'm like the corporate guy now.
yeah. And like, that's why, you know, when we moved in here, the previous tenant left this table and I was like, we're going to cover it in stickers. But it's cool. It's fun. And I mean, like the best thing is that, I've found people that are way more talented than me, to be able to help me bring it to life. And I like giving people the same thing that makes this fun for me, which is waking up every day and loving what I do.
Yeah,
Definitely.
So what's in the Steve Stuff mind for 5 or 10 years from now?
I can't tell you.
Okay. So that's in the near future. But
Yeah.
where do you see Third Eye Comics?
I would say, where do you guys see it? Because you guys are pretty rooted in all my crazy stuff.
I mean, I definitely see it growing and flourishing and being bigger than what it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing that Steve is great at, is always being ahead and wanting to do the next thing and keeping people excited, you know?
yeah. I mean, the way I see it, there was a lot of, you know, unfortunately, businesses closing down during COVID, and Steve was opening up more stores during the same time. So if we could do it then, we can do a lot in the future.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And it's weird, but I think Annapolis surprises me as being a big comic type market. I would think, you know, New York, San Francisco, LA, probably Chicago, maybe Miami a little bit. I mean, where is the epicenter for the nerds?
Here.
Yeah.
We made it here.
Mhm.
Is it?
Yeah, that's us. We and we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it everywhere. You know, like that's the thing. That's if you wanted to ask what we're trying to do, we want to give people what we have here in Annapolis everywhere. Like we expanded our St. Mary's store in 2021, and that area is turning into a giant area full of nerdy fun too. And I mean,
That was a skinny little store.
it was.
Yeah, it's big
almost
now.
as big as Annapolis now.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like, we want to do that. We want to do that everywhere. And I mean, and for Annapolis, we want to make Annapolis nerd Disneyland. Like we want to make this the tourist attraction for the United States, because people will come here from all up and down the mid-Atlantic. They'll come from other parts of the country. And Third Eye Annapolis is the spot. You know, we're the biggest physical comic shop in the country, with maybe a couple exceptions, but we're the biggest physical comic shop in the country. And we want to keep making it nerd Disneyland. We want to keep adding cool, fun stuff and making it a place where you can just disappear for an hour and relive either the things that you loved when you were younger, or discover the things as you're getting older that you want to find that are new.
And
I
keeping
think it
it
sucks
fresh.
that you guys get to do that every day, though. You know, from a personal point of view. You know, I would love to live my childhood again, you know, every single day. You guys have wonderful jobs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very
Most
lucky.
definitely.
Well, congratulations on the expansion. Congratulations on music and video that will be opening up on January 21st? 27th.
27th.
27th. Again, Third Eye Comics, Third Eye Games, Third Eye Music and Video, and Third Eye Bargains and Finds, all right on that first block of Chinkapin Round Road if you come off of West Street, I guess.
Yeah.
Actually, it's the second block, I guess it is, aren't you?
Yeah.
You can't miss it. It's got giant paintings on the front of the building. You definitely know that you're in Disneyland for nerds when you come down Chinkapin
That's the
Round Road.
goal.
Plenty of free
Wait
parking.
till I get my billboards.
ThirdEyeComics.com is a good starting point. Third Eye Games is another one.
And shop.thirdeyecomics.com for our online store.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Congratulations on really everything. And, you know, to Steve, congratulations for hiring a great team. Emma, for figuring out what the heck needs to fill the walls. And to Karolyn for making sure that the walls and the roof stays in place and everything.
Trains run on time.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much. And, you know, again, congratulations. I can't wait to get back here on the 27th and check out some new vinyl.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
of course.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.